Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time joining, welcome. If you are joining from a previous video on my channel or you are a previous subscriber, welcome back. If you have not seen my previous video on the Pfaff Creative 4.0, I went over all the accessories for the machine. Today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you all of what the buttons are on the outside of the machine and all of the parts to the outside of the machine. So first what we're going to do is we have let me show you here at the top and just this a little bit so you can see. So we have, on most machines, you're going to have either on the front panel, you're going to have something that shows you all of your stitches of what the machine can do. So we have just the basic stitches, your buttonhole stitches, then you have your quilting stitches, then we have our, I'm sorry, my brain just went dead there for a minute, your satin stitches, then it goes all into your decorative stitches. So there's a lot of stitches in this machine. So we'll go ahead and close that back up, and I will kind of zoom back down here, get this straight back up for you. And then we have our threading slots through here. Then we have our thread cutter. And this thread cutter is a lot like the thread cutter is over here. And I'm going to turn this sideways a little bit. And the thread cutter on this machine is this little disc here on the side. And if you are familiar with machines, most of the time there's like a little piece that kind of sticks out right here, and you bring your thread back and you cut it. And on this one, you bring your thread forward to cut it. So I'm not used to using this yet. In truth, I have not used it at all yet. So I have to get used to bringing it forward instead. So that is your thread cutter on this one. And get that kind of straight there. And then we have our Sensormatic buttonhole foot socket. And what that is, this machine comes with this really fancy foot, and this is for sewing buttonholes, and it sews accurate size buttonholes. So so the way I understand in reading it through the manual is that you will input the correct size of the button you're going to be sewing, and this helps you sew an accurate size buttonhole in your garment for that button. So I do not sew garments, so this is probably going to be kind of a waste for me. But this kind of comes with it. Through my research on looking for sewing feet, I will be using this machine for quilting besides embroidery. I was looking for some 1/4-inch feet. I found out that this particular sewing foot is $100 just on an off-market sewing machine parts store online. So if you were to go through a certified Pfaff dealership, I'm sure you would be paying over $100 for this. So this is a pretty expensive little guy here. And that just goes right back here in the little compartment. Then your next part on the machine is going to be your LED lights. There's one located here and up underneath here. And if you've never had an embroidery sewing machine, let me kind of tilt this a little bit better there so we're straight. So if you've never had an embroidery sewing machine and you turn it on for the first time and you hear it, you might excuse me, you might think something is wrong because it does make a lot of noise when you first turn it on. And the reason for that is because the machine calibrates itself. And especially if you have, I have the sewing machine embroidery unit here off to the side. And if you have that turned on, plugged into the machine, the arm of the embroidery unit is going to calibrate itself also. So it's going to make a lot of noise. So when you first turn on the machine for that, you're going to hear that. So don't be alarmed. So you're going to hear, I'm going to be real quiet when this turns on so you hear how loud that is. And it's going to take a minute for it to come up. Okay, so the screen came on. Okay, so the reason why it took a minute, a few seconds actually, for it to come up, not really a minute, is because it is actually a computerized sewing machine. So the computer is actually booting up in the unit, okay? So don't be alarmed when it takes a little bit for it to come up like that. That's perfectly normal. I was just at the local Pfaff dealership yesterday, and I asked about that. So that is perfectly normal. And I did buy this machine used on eBay, and I asked them, it takes a few seconds for it to come up, and they said that's perfectly normal. So there's nothing wrong with that. So, okay. So our LED lights, so there's one here, and there's one here. So you have a lot of light, which is really nice. Then your next is, when I was trying to tell you about your thread cutter, is your built-in needle threader, and that is right here. And it is very similar to the needle threader that is on my Brother my Brother SQ9185 machine. And I did show in one of the videos on how to replace that needle threader. This one is slightly different on how it goes into this unit, into this section here. And so that is your needle threader. And then our next part is the needle bar. And I'm going to adjust this down here a little bit, and hope we can all see that okay. And our needle bar is this portion right here, is the needle bar. And I'm really sorry about the lighting. It's really a nasty rainy day here in New Mexico. So here is our needle bar. And then we have the needle thread guide, which is right here. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little metal piece right there on here. And usually you put it through on this side when you're bringing the thread through. You're going to bring it through and put it over here. But on this particular machine, you bring your thread down through here, and you bring it this way to the left and put it through. So that's just a little bit different for me. On the Brothers, you bring it from the right and hook it through, but on the Pfaff, you bring it from the left to hook it through. Okay, so then we have our bobbin cover, and on here we just slide it forward, and whoops, slide it back on. And then we, of course, we have our stitch plate, and I'm going to move this aside a little bit, and I'm not going to be able to move this too much, But we have our free arm, which is here. And so if you're going to be sewing garments and things like that, you have your free arm. So shirt sleeves, cuffs on pants, things like that. And that's that. Let's put that back on. Then we have your presser foot, which I have down on the, presser foot, presser foot. Your presser foot bar is this portion, and then we have your presser foot bar and presser foot holder. I'm going to take us back down here, and we're going to turn just a little bit. Okay, so this is your presser foot bar, this portion, and this is your presser foot holder here, and I'm going to pop to, whoops. Okay, so I am really not used to this machine yet, so please forgive me. Dang it. Okay. So this is another little portion that I'm not used to yet. Okay, so this is your presser foot holder, and for your presser foot on the Pfaff, you're just going to pull down, and they just pop right back on, just like so. Okay, and I'm sorry if I'm fumbling around a little bit. I'm still really learning this machine. For those of you that have watched my previous videos, you will know that I'm very used to using the Brother machines. So I'm still, the Pfaff is a big learning curve for me. Okay, so then we have our needle screw. I'm going to turn this back around, and our needle screw is right here. And this one has a really nice kind of like textured to it. It's got some nice grooves in it, so when you are doing your finger tightening before you actually use your screwdriver to tighten it, you can actually feel the needle screw, so you can tighten it a little bit better. Okay, so that is it for that portion. And then we have, okay, come on, cooperate here. Okay, so we have our reverse button, and then we have our reverse indicator, and that's kind of hard to see. Right here, there's an indicator, and this will light up when you need to do a reverse stitch. You can see that okay. And then we have an action indicator, which is this one. And the action indicator will also, I'm really sorry, this is really hard to see. There we go. This one will also light up when there are certain stitches and things that you're doing. If you have to perform a certain, oh geez, okay. If you have to perform a certain action, this will light up and it will tell you what that it'll let you know that there's something that you have to do. That's according to what I've read so far. So we're going to get a little further into that as I go into the machine more. I'm still learning. There is a lot on this machine to learn. Truthfully, I'm a little overwhelmed since there is so much on this machine. I've been reading the manual to familiarize myself with it. Okay, so now we have our presser foot up and our presser foot down. So with your presser foot up, there is also an extra lift toggle. And what your extra lift toggle does is, I'm going to find the correct page here. And your extra lift toggle, what that does is you raise your presser foot and the needle to the up position, and you press the button once more and the presser foot will raise to an extra lift, and the feed dogs will be lowered to make it easier to let you put an extra thick piece of fabric underneath. So if you're sewing something, maybe denim, or if you're sewing, say, maybe like outdoor fabric and you're sewing several layers of it and it's really thick, your feed dogs will lower and the presser foot will raise up a little bit higher so you can get that fabric up underneath there. So that's a nice little add-on there. And also your presser foot down has a pivot toggle. So what that one does is let me find the page again, I'm sorry. So your pivot toggle, so when you lower your presser foot completely and then you press the button once more to raise the presser foot to pivot height. So say, which is really good. So for me, in my case, when I'm quilting, if I'm doing where I'm sewing something and I need to pivot the fabric, you just push that again and it's going to raise it slightly to where you can just turn the fabric without having to completely raise it up and move the fabric, then put it back in. So you're going to be able to pivot your fabric around. Okay, we'll get into that a little more later on as well. Okay, so our next is, then you have your start and your stop button. So you have your little triangle for your start, your little square for your stop, and so it's your start stop. Then you have your thread snip button to cut. Then you have your immediate tie off button. So if you're doing something and you want to tie off your thread immediately, that's what this one is. So while you're sewing, you'll hit this. You're not going to stop and hit it. So while you're actually sewing, you hit this one and it'll immediately tie off your thread. So and then this one is your stitch restart. I do not know how your stitch restart works. I need to look into this one a little bit more. Then you have your needle up, needle down. Then let's go back up to the top. I'm going to open the top up. And over here, you have this little ruler here to the side. And what that says that is it's a button ruler. And that's going to let you measure your buttons accurately. So you can input the size for the Sensormatic button foot that I showed you. And then you have, of course, your hand wheel here to the side. Then you have your LCD screen, which is, they call it the Pfaff HD screen. And then we have our HD ports, or your USB ports here to the side. You have a regular USB port, and I am like really all over. I'm sorry about that. We have a USB port here over to the side, and then we have another one where you can plug another one that comes with, let me show you the cord. It looks like a regular USB on one end and like this. And what this does is this plugs into the machine and this one plugs into your computer. So you can hook your computer to your machine. And there's that one. And then you have your stylus holder, which is here, and your little stylus pen. And then over here to the side, you have your plug-in, your power cord, your foot control switch, and then your main power switch. Okay, Then we're going to go up here to the top of the machine. And we have, I'm really sorry that I'm a little wishy-washy today. You have your handle. This just kind of lifts up here. And this machine is very heavy. The shipping, when they were shipping the machine, it said that this portion, the box, was 38 pounds. So it is very heavy. So there's your handle. Then we have back down here at the bottom. Let me go. I don't know why it's taking us way back down here. There's this little black lever right here. And this is called your IDT. And if you saw how I pushed that, what your IDT is it is your, I want to tell you this correctly, is your integrated dual feed. And how you saw I pushed that forward, and it kind of like went, you can see that it is now connected onto the presser foot. What that does is it's for sewing any fabric precisely, and the Pfaff Creative 4.0 sewing and embroidery machine provides the ideal solution. The integrated dual feed, or the IDT system, as in an industrial as on industrial machines, the IDT feeds fabric from the top and the bottom at the same time. So if you're a quilter and you use a walking foot, what this does is this takes place of a walking foot. What it does is it allows you to feed the fabric of the quilt through evenly. Okay? So give me just a moment. I have a phone call. I will be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I had to take that phone call real quick. My husband went out for a few minutes and the phone kept on buzzing and I didn't know if something was wrong, so I had to take that really quick. Okay, so I was saying that the IDT, that if you are a quilter, what this does is that it's going to help you if you're familiar with quilting and you use the walking foot. This is going to take place of the walking foot on this machine. That when this is engaged, it's going to help feed the layers of the fabric through the machine. So when we get into the actual quilting a little bit more, I'll tell you a little bit more about the IDT. And so it's going to keep all the layers of the quilt projects aligned to prevent the shifting of the fabric. But we'll get into that a little bit more. So our next is, we have your embroidery unit connection socket, and that's going to be back here in the back. When you take off your, it's back here, and oops, it's back here, but you can't really see that right now because when you take it off and you push the button, it pops a cover up over the top of it, which keeps it clean. And it prevents anything from getting inside of it, which is really nice. So there's that. And I'm going to pause for a minute and get this camera readjusted. So give me just a moment. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we're at the top of the machine. And we've already talked about our cover here and how all the stitches are at the top. So our next part is your pre-tension device for threading the bobbin. And that is this little part right here. This is a tension disc right here. And you can see how it, okay, so that's your pre-tension disc. And then you have your bobbin winder thread guide, which is the little the little part that kind of sticks off here, right there. And then you have your thread guide, which is this portion. And then we have your bobbin thread guides, which is these two right here. And to thread this machine is a lot different than what my brother machines are. And I will do a video on how to actually thread these, because it is a lot different than what I'm used to. Well, not a lot different. There are some different steps to it. So our next item is your bobbin winder lever, which is this one. And on this one, this is a lot different for me. Usually when you thread a bobbin, you put the bobbin on and you slide it over. On this one, you put your bobbin and you actually slide you push this over like so. Okay, so that's for your bobbin. Then you have your bobbin thread cutter, which is this one. And then you have your auxiliary spool pin, which is this one here, and it just pops right up. Then you have spool caps. I went over the spool caps in the accessories video, and we have several different spool caps. We have two large ones, a medium one, and a small one. Okay. And then we have, we got the auxiliary spool pin, our spool caps. Then we have your main spool pin, and this one is here. And then you can also pop it up, so you can use it horizontal or vertical. This one, the auxiliary one, is just vertical or vertical only, horizontal not. And then we have your thread tension, which is this one here. It is a little, let's see if I can get that in there. There's this little thing right here. That is your thread tension. Then we have a take-up lever, which is right down inside here. And it's kind of hard to see in there. So that is everything for your outside of your Pfaff Creative 4.0. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comment box or in the comments down below. I know this was a little bit wishy-washy with the camera having to move around a lot. But please, if you have any questions or you have any suggestions, feel free to ask. We'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.